Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, March 12th. Please rise for the prayer and pledge. Dear Lord, we ask that you be with us tonight. We ask that you give us your wisdom and your grace to help us make the best decisions possible to most positively impact the lives of the people in this parish and to help us become better leaders and better men. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Ms. Suzanne, we have Councilman Cullen, Councilman Benny Johnson, Councilman Sheik Snyder, Councilman Valentine, and Councilman Kluwat absent. There are no chairs additions. Reminder about the public comment period. If you want to speak, please come sign in with the Parish Secretary. Lamar Dixon report, Mr. Eddie Crawford.
Good evening, Council. You should have before you our January financial report. You look at that first page. As always, we look down at about halfway down the page. Our operating loss at this point over the 4 years, I guess 43 months of the contract, is $2.2 million, averages out to about $52,000 a month over that 43-month period. As of January, we still had about $231,000 in cash and investments. Page 2 will give you the month of January highlights. We did much better than expected, about $55,000 positive variance. We had several events that did better than expected. So that was good, especially with the economic conditions that the country seems to be in right now. Page 2 gives you some more highlights. Again, under operating income, the RV operation, as you see, is still performing very well for us. That will probably drop off a little bit in February and March. We have some contractual obligations with other events. We had to open up some of those sites. We have a large RV rally coming in next month. Everything else, page 4 kind of gives you, it's just the year to date, so we're just looking again at the month of January right now. But as you can see, that gives you kind of a look at where we're hoping to be by the end of June. Our budget is a $231,000 loss. Right now, we're about $51,000 ahead for the month of January. Page 5 again gives you the first 3 columns from coming from the left to the right, gives you the look at the month of January. I think what's most important with that is the down at the bottom, the combined operations. Looks like we've got a positive $119,000 variance just for the month of January. And as you look across, that'll give you the following 4 columns will give you the look at the year and then where we were last year. So we're about $40,000 better than we were this time last year. Page 6 gives you a look at the balance sheet. And then 7 is our accounts receivable, still working to clear up some of these outstanding debts. We have some hurricane operations, monies that we're working to collect. And some of these others are going to free up probably in the next month or so. So we don't expect too many challenges there. Just looking at the calendar, going from January forward, we're about 245 event days, so we're tracking a little better than we were last year for the first half of the year. Came out of the LSU Livestock Show, was probably our last big event, did very well. This weekend, as we speak, we're setting up for the Louisiana Sportsman Show. We expect about 15 or 20,000 folks to show up for that. We'll also have a large regional barrel racing event going on in the other side of the property, so it should be a very big weekend for us out there at Lamar. Hopefully the weather will hold out for us. Just from request from last month, we are working on an exit strategy with the administration. I've got a rough draft that I want to meet with Mr. Grant and go over, but I think it gets us right where we need to be as far as June 30th being able to turn the facility back over to the foundation in good order. Our last events, we have 2 events that weekend, the 28th and the 29th, but that'll give us 2 days. We should have the rest of the property inventoried and shut down, so I don't see any real big issues coming down the pipe, but we'll meet with the administration and make sure that we've got all our bases covered. Any questions?
Councilman
Yeah,
Thomas.
Mr. Crawford, you say you have a rough copy. Could you give us an idea of cost, dollar-wise, roughly?
I don't
know I can't help, you don't have that figure?
I don't have costs yet.
Okay.
Most of it will be, the predominant majority of this stuff on this list is going to be routine maintenance. It'll be, touching up paint, replacing ceiling tiles. The biggest item we've got out there is the perimeter fencing. We still have lots of trees down, things like that. I've tried to get estimates from those. We've had 3 companies come out and look at it. None have given us an estimate at this time. I think the biggest issue with getting an estimate from these folks is going to be whether they have to clear the fence line or not. There's a considerable amount of trees out along that. So I think that's our biggest issue. If going back to some of the fence repairs we've done over the 4 years, could be looking at $15,000 to $20,000.
No major equipment issues,
No major equipment issues.
mechanical.
Yeah.
Councilman Thompson.
The insurance is not covering those trees that's down?
I'm
the
not
fence
sure
line?
how that's going to work out with that.
They've been down since Gustav,
Some from Katrina, most from Gustav, yes, sir.
and we hadn't attempt to fix that since
sir.
that time?
We've been trying to. I've got 2 full-time employees, so we are basically focused on the event side of things. We're not concentrating on that. We will make repairs that affect the event side of the facility. We're not really focused on the back metal part or things like that.
President Martinez, why those fence wasn't repaired?
Mr. Thompson, this is basically the first time I'm hearing that there was extensive damage to the fences, but I'm sure that we can utilize our equipment to clean the fence line, and if we can get a pretty good price on it. Now, as far as insurance, I know that we are self-insured to X amount of dollars. What is it, 100,000, first 100,000 on building? I'm asking Ms. LeBlanc. Would you answer that? Ms. LeBlanc, would you, what is our exposure on the fences and stuff, on buildings?
On our partially self-insured policy, we have an aggregate of $100,000 per year.
We can probably find, to answer your question, Mr. Thompson, anything above 100,000, we can probably file a claim on and get it taken care of. But some of it we may be able to take care of in-house, and hopefully we can. As far as getting the right-of-way cleaned for the fence, I know that's what takes them a long time, as you said. So, I mean, some of this has been around since.
Administration hearing of the
What?
fence. So this is the first time the administration hearing about the fence being down?
Well, I mean, it's the first time there's been an issue, to us. But I mean, we're gonna take care of it one way or the other.
Thank you.
Won't be a problem.
Councilman Joseph.
Thank you, Chairman. I know last meeting we was talking about inventory of the assets and the accountability of those assets if we have to turn those keys over at the end of June. I just want to know what stage we in at, or your company or working with the parish with those assets, and what was the inventory of it when we took it over. Can we get a report on that? How are we coming along with that? Because this is March.
That's right.
3 more months. I don't want to be here trying to pay for something that we don't know if we were responsible for it or not. And I know the administration said they would get on it, but I just like a monthly report on that portion of it, so when it does come up, we'll be aware of what the type of status or situation we're in for inventory. And if we have to pay in it, thing, at least we'll be ahead of it.
Basically, not some of our pre-meetings, our exposure is not that much. As you said, it's mostly painting and stuff like that, and most of the equipment's been, I guess, they've looked at everything there, and that's been accounted for. So, again, if it's painting and just doing some minor repairs, I don't think we got a big exposure there from the meetings that we've had, if that's.
And that's all, just making sure, because you know how this is going to go, Mr. President.
Yes,
They're going to come here and say, well, 6 years ago or 5 years, whatever amount of years it was, we turned this over to the parish and now it is missing. and now you owe us some money. I just don't want to be, you know, in a situation that we have to pay some extra money that we don't have for the assets. So,
I think we'll have enough meetings to make sure that you know ahead of time what's going on. Hopefully,
right.
we can kind of wind this down by the beginning of May, the first Thursday in May. Let's put a deadline on it, and then that will give us 6 weeks, 7 weeks to look at it. Okay.
sound good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Lambert?
Yeah, Mr. Crawford, one quick question on why Mr. Joseph brought that up. I think you said it's somewhere around $231,000 in cash and assets that we have on the balance. What is that? Is there a split on how much cash we have and how much is assets?
That's,
Or is that all cash?
I think it's probably,
231 is the cash.
Okay, because you said cash and
Yes.
assets, so I was
I
curious.
believe we've got one account that does earn some interest.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any further questions? Thank you, Eddie. Suzanne, please note that Councilman Cullen and Councilman Scheck-Snyder are present. Thanks. Next section is our finance reports. Ms. Gwen LeBlanc.
Thank you, Chairman Lower, and good evening, gentlemen. You have for you an abbreviated sales and use tax report. The charts from the Sales Tax Authority did not come in time enough to add them to the packet. So we'll go over it. The first page, this is based on February collections, and we have our 3 sales tax districts as usual. And I guess the important line to read is the year-to-date under each one. You can see the East Ascension drainage, 2009 over 2008 is $107.8 thousand, and that represents a 6.07% increase. And then year-to-date in our sales tax district number 1, 2009 over 2008 year-to-date represents $389.5 thousand, and that equates to a 15.48% increase. And our half-cent sales tax, which is 1/3 fire protection services and 2/3 road construction, year-to-date 2009 over 2008, the difference is plus $193.7 million. $1,000, excuse me, and that equates to 16.18% increase year-to-date. As we stated last month, and we will continue to monitor our returns each month, and we'll especially look at it at our Sales and Use Tax Authority board meetings, and we will stay in contact, the authority will stay in contact with businesses and the business environment in our parish, and especially the chemical sector. If you look on the second page, this represents only our Sales and Use Tax District number 1. And what we're really trying to show you is how much 3 of our funds are so dependent on our sales taxes. You can see now this is just the Sales Tax District number 1 budget. You can see the revenues of $14.7 million, and going down to the total expenditures and other uses, $16.5 million was budgeted for a deficit for just the operating year of $1.8 million. And under the expenditures, if you look on the far left-hand side, and other uses other than the professional services administrative fees, we want to look at our funds, that these are the funds that receive a transfer from the sales tax fund. The general fund, in its fund, it has a total budget of $18.2 million, but it depends on $8.3 million from the sales tax fund just to balance, and that represents a dependence of 45.6% of the budget and general fund is dependent on the sales tax fund. Road and Bridge has no dedicated funding. This is our maintenance fund. It has a budget of $6.3 million, and it depends on a $5.4 million transfer from the sales tax to balance itself or to operate, which represents 85.6% of its budget. Our recreation departments, there again, they have no dedicated funding mechanism, so they are funded mainly by the sales tax district number 1. They have a total budget of $2.8 million. And they need $1.4 million in 2009 to balance, and that represents 49.7% of their budget is coming from being funded by sales tax district number 1. Lamar Dixon is $410,000 in '09. Debt service, that's the jail expansion project. The debt service is $821,000 in '09. And FINS, which is a 23rd Judicial District Fund program, it represents families in need of services, and we provide $65,000 annually to that program. And you can see at the percentage after 2 months of operations at 8.33% of the year, you can see the percents that are being funded, what percent of the budget they are each. 8.33 is just the month, I'm sorry, it's 16.66%. So you can see that the transfers are at that amount. Recreation receives, by your ordinance, it's a straight 10% of collections. Because collections are up, they are receiving 20.2% at this time of the year. We haven't transferred anything yet to Lamar Dixon, and the rest are right on budget. And the pie at the bottom just shows you how the sales tax is sliced up. Starting with the general fund, naturally, that's what it receives from the budget of the sales tax fund and around. And then the next and last page is the historical page, and it represents from 1999 through 2008 is complete. And you can see the peaks and valleys of our collections in the 3 sales tax districts. And that's it for the sales tax. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. If not, I'll turn it over to Amanda for the revenue and expenditure report.
Just real quick before we do that, Gwen, can we add a page as well that tracks month to month the sales tax collections, so we can kind of see that graphed out too, besides just a year to year?
Certainly.
Okay. Any questions before we move on to the revenue and expenditures? Okay. Amanda? I'm sorry, Mr. President?
Gwen, didn't industry make a big purchase this year, one of the plants?
Yes, one of our...
This might past month, so I think that's another one of your spikes again.
Right. One of our petrochemical industries purchased a catalyst this month, and that's kind of a one-time expenditure or a not too often expenditure, so that kind of spiked up the sales tax in 1 and 2. East Central Drainage too. All 3.
Yeah. Anybody else? Amanda?
Okay, I'll turn it over to Amanda to give the revenue and expenditure report.
This is a report for January 2009. Everything that's highlighted in green on the first sheet is your revenues compared to the budget as of January, and everything highlighted in green is anything that's under the budget at this time, which the budget should be at 8.33%. And the majority of it is due to either interest that's not allocated because we don't do it to the end of the year, or revenues that came in January and February that were for 2008 and they were reversed off the books. So some of them even show a negative, and that's just because we reversed it out of the off the books because it's 2008 revenue. So it'll eventually catch up probably next month. It'll look a little bit different. One of the major things we just want to bring to your attention on the revenues is interest. The rates have went down, and just to give you an example, on East Ascension Drainage Construction, comparing the interest that was received on that construction bond money, in January of 2008 we received $157,000 in interest, and in January of 2009 we only received $3,294 in interest, and in February we received $600. And
just a quick comment. That is due to the bond indenture. It restricted the investment instruments you could purchase. It is strictly to Treasury bills. And that was the only thing. We don't do that. Our trustee holds that money and invests, but they have to invest according to the bond indenture, and that was restricted. Just, they can only invest in treasury bills. That was the severe drop, and at one point, treasuries were yielding 0.02%. You won't see as much of a drop in the jail bonds because they had a variety of instruments they could invest in, and it wasn't restricted just to treasury bills.
Councilman Jessup?
Ms. Quinn, because it dropped down so low, and I know we pay interest on the bond loan and of it, how does that affect us? I mean, compared to $100,000 that we've been receiving some revenues on, now we're down to this. How that will affect us paying that bond back? Are we going to take that out of the funds we have, and it going to cause a little problem in the future?
The interest earned was calculated like on the construction costs. So the bond payments are set. I mean, we have to fund that on a monthly basis.
Okay, so this just was extra revenues
Right.
that we have been...
Extra revenues in the construction fund that are going to decrease as long as the market is low.
The next page of the report is your expenditure comparison, and it gives you a comparison of the it gives you what was spent month to date, and then it compares year to date to the budget and gives you a percentage of the budget, and the ones that's in green are over the budget, which is at 8.33%. Operating budget is at 7.73%, and capital projects budget is at 20.14%. And the majority of the increases over the budget are due to encumbrances for annual purchase orders that have been issued for the year, or contracts that have been obligated, and they're in the budget encumbered for the whole year. They're on the books. And that's the reason for the majority of them. And some of them, the ones that have 9999, that is because that is grants that were approved after the budget process, and we have to amend the budget for those. The next page is a year-to-date revenue and transfers and expenditures, just a chart comparing the budget to the actual expenditures. And it's broken down. The green is the budget, and the yellow is the operating, actual operating expenses and revenue, and the blue is the year-to-date capital projects, revenue and expenditures. The next sheet is disbursements exceeding $100,000 that was issued for the month of January, and that the total of the ones that were over $100,000 was $4.7 million total, and they came from the general fund, East Ascension Drainage Fund, Road and Bridge, Hillryville Road and Bridge Construction, and the biggest ones were for the debris removal and monitoring contracts. And the check to the library for their ad valorem tax settlement payment. Then the last two sheets are just an explanation that actually tells you the explanations for the reasons that either the revenues are under budget or expenditures are over budget. Do y'all have any questions?
Any questions? Thanks, Amanda. Number 8, contracts. Contract amendment. 8A, contract amendment, Parish Professional Services contract with Ascension Water Company for billing and collecting sewer user fees. An increase from 99 cents per month per customer or dwelling unit to $1.25 per month per customer or dwelling unit. Ms. Lindsay Manda.
This amendment was drafted at the request of Mr. Owen for Ascension Water Company. It's an existing contract we've had for several years. There's a provision for renegotiation, and at Mr. Owen's request and the recommendation of Mr. Kenny Matassa, this amendment is before you.
Is it just me? I don't have it in my packet. Do you guys have it?
I don't have that in my packet.
You have a copy?
No, actually, Councilman Laura, I don't, but it's a simple amendment. The contract is staying the same. It's just one of those one-page forms from 99 cents per unit to $1.25. All other terms and conditions remain in effect of the existing contract.
Councilman
Ms. Amanda, in that contract, this is coming from the Public Service Commission. Have they requested this through the Public Service Commission and asked for an increase? Or they're just, based on the way the contract is written, is based on if we give it to them?
Based on the way the contract is written, there's a 60-day termination clause, and they can terminate the contract upon that notice to us. Mr. Matassa, which I don't think Mr. Matassa is here, was approached by Ascension Water. We were attempting to add on one of our sewage treatment plants, and he explained that to do so at this current price would actually be at a loss for him. So he asked for an increase of the total contract amount per unit, and that's what's here before you.
Okay, so, I mean, next year, if he would come in here and he say he want $1.30, he can have it. So it's not going through the Public Service Commission to justify.
Don't have to.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
this is a contractual obligation with the parish and Ascension Water.
Okay,
And either party can terminate with the 60-day notice. You know, we don't have to continue to stay in this business relationship if it's, you know, not the council's wishes, but this is something that has been proposed and requested, and it's here tonight for your consideration.
So this has been analyzed by administration about if this is feasible and everything, Mr. President?
Basically, I don't think they were going to do we had a contract with them. Linda, you can stop me at any time, but contract said it was for 99 cents for all new or existing facilities that we put online. Well, they saying that they were losing money and everybody else was paying them $1.25. So we could not get them to work with us on the Harryville sewer, so we hadn't been able to collect over there over the last few months. So when they came to us, this is basically what came out of the arrangement. Now, I didn't meet with him. I think Mr. Matassa met with him. I don't know if he's here or not, but basically that's what I was told.
Mr. Thompson?
So the administration is aware of this?
We're definitely aware. We
It
discussed it.
didn't come to the Utilities Committee?
It didn't come. You want to put it back to you? We'll be glad to do so.
I think it should go to Utilities Committee.
Okay. So we're gonna have to collect all this back stuff on Harryville.
Well,
Want you to know. So it's up to you. We'll go back.
Councilman Cullen?
So, Mr. President, right now, we're not collecting anything.
No, sir. Not from Harryville. We all collecting from Country Ridge. A couple others that we have. I think Darrow and one more. Which one is it? Hope Villa. Yeah. And they're charging us 99 cents for those. That was the original contract. When was that contract drafted, Ms. Manda?
I'm not sure, but I think it was sometime in early 2000, 2001, so it's several years old.
Was it with the franchise deal?
This contract was separate and apart from the franchise agreement.
Okay. But I mean, it's up to you.
Councilman Shakespeare?
Just
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one of the things, I mean, usually we go through committee and everything, and I understand it's an emergency
It's
situation.
not really an emergency. We're not collecting anything.
Well, we're not
now.
collecting
If you want to
money.
go back, I
If we're
certainly
not
don't
collecting
have
money, it's an emergency.
Right.
And, you know, we're losing money. But we do have, just for administration benefit, we do have an executive committee made up of 3 people that this could be run by anytime we get in these situations, which do happen. And that's why that committee was established, and then they can run it through them and make a recommendation, and we can go forward. And then it will be, they could transfer their decisions to utilities and the regular council. And I think we could satisfy a lot of the council's concerns with that. And, you know, as far as this, the other thing is, we have a contract with a private entity. It doesn't go through Public Service Commission, and we're just administering the water. It's one of the problems you have when government is not in charge of water in the parish. And we're going to continue to have these problems, and I appreciate the fact that we're moving forward with the utilities department and head, and so hopefully as we get further and further into this, and if we can get a water system of our own, we can start eliminating some of these problems. And just to let everybody know that if we do have to expend some money to do so, these are some of the things that in the long run we're going to prevent from happening to us, because we can obviously be held hostage on this. There's no other way we can go. So I think this is a forerunner of things to come.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yeah, guys, I think, we're only looking at 25 cents. If we 26 cents. And the guy that we're not collecting from, we're going to have to come back and collect 2 or 3 months in one chunk, and some of these people are going to have tough time doing it. That's my concern if we don't move on it tonight or bring it to the full council, because we're not talking about a lot, 26 cents a month. And if we don't, they're going to have to come back and pay 3 months of sewer bills, and it might be a little tougher on them than paying what they normally pay monthly.
I'll offer the motion that we move forward and pay the 126.
I second.
Motion by Councilman Thompson that we move forward with this. And
125, I'm sorry.
With 125, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any further discussion? Any objection? So moved. Item 8B, Cartograph, amendment of contract to add proposal for services performed in 2008 in the amount of $21,350. Mr.
Council members, this is an amendment to the existing contract we have for Cartograph to provide services on the work order management program. This was to do their initial assessment in 2008.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Thompson, second by Councilman Shakespeare. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 9, request for additional annual appropriations in the amount of $10,000 from Capital Area Legal Services. Mr. Jim Wayne is here to speak about this. You'll recall at the last Finance Committee meeting, we requested he come and present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, member of the council, and Mr. Parish President. I come before you today to, first of all, to give you your report, which I think I've passed out to most of you. You have 2 documents in front of you. One is the number of cases, and these are what represent closed cases that we did for the year 2008. That was done with the attorneys we have working in this parish. This is a unique parish because we have 2 offices. It was decided several years ago that we have an office in Donaldsonville and Gonzales, because we found our major fund in Washington said because the geographical barriers of the Mississippi River that we needed a presence on the East Bank. So in looking at the East Bank, we thought the central location serve Iberville Parish, St. James Parish, St. John Parish would put an office here in Gonzales also. We always had an office in Donaldsonville. So this is what the 1 attorney in Donaldsonville and 2 attorneys here in Gonzales. We have an office here in Gonzales. We have an attorney that we pay the salary. We have a grant from the Bar Foundation on our oath account, where we have another attorney here in the Gonzales office. And these are closed cases that they did for the citizen in the 23rd JDC last year. The other report I have for you is the financial report to show you what we have. And the reason we come before you asking for additional funding, 2 major things happen to us. Number one, we normally get $150,000 from the state. The local delegation has always supported us with the state fund. And last year, we asked for our annual $150,000. They only appropriated $100,000. Governor Jindal vetoed that. We think it was a mistake. I reported my sheriff. He had some contacts. He wrote a very blistering letter to the governor that should have been a mistake, because we're not a local program. We're not a pet project. We serve a whole region, all the way from the Felicianos north of us to the Gulf of Mexico. I was down in Terrebonne Parish and Lafourche Parish earlier this month. So we think we can get that overturned, but $100,000 lost in the month of July, latter part of July, it was hard to make up. And I operate at a deficit. So this year, I had to lay off 2 lawyers and 4 other employees. You lost the secretary here in the Gonzales office. You lost the intake person over in the Donaldsonville office. I kept the attorneys, but it's hard. The attorneys are doing double time now. And we was going to close the budget. My board of directors called for me to close the office of Gonzales. I'm very fond of the operation. We own that building. You helped me pay for the building. You, St. John's, you, Ascension, and St. James Parish pays the money to pay the note on the building in Donaldsonville. Through your donation and those other 2 parishes, we're okay. In fact, we're doing some major renovations from a grant we got from the Bar Foundation. That office being brought up. We have an office here that we bought. At the time, we had some good tenants. We had engineering firm who rented that space for just in case for hurricanes. Kept it for several years. They are out. We had a health unit there. ETL was there. We lost them. So I went to Mr. Tommy, the parish president, and asked for some help this year. You normally give us $17,000, which I think you'll see in another item there. Our annual appropriation from you is about $17,000 that we use to keep the operation. This year, because of the shortfall, I was asking for an additional $10,000 this one time for this year in order to tie it so that we can, by July, at least break even. We're trying to raise the money, and we're doing a good job at it. Mr. Martinez, I'm also glad to report, he told me when I met him in his office on this issue, he said, you better go and get half of this money from another parish. I did. Terrebonne Parish went from $14,000 this week and went up to $24,000. And they even offered me to buy the building we have right next to the courthouse in Terrebonne Parish. So I did what I was told to do. That half of the $20,000 we were trying to raise has already been secured from Terrebonne Parish. And we need the $10,000 so that we can maintain our operation. I think with the other fundraising, that's all I do now, most of the fundraising, that we'll be able to bring the budget back in line by July 1. That's my goal, and that's why we're coming to you asking for some assistance at this time.
Okay. Councilman Shakespeare.
Mr. Wayne, I sure do appreciate you coming here and spending your time, and we also appreciate what you do for the citizens there, and appreciate the efforts on trying to make the monies work out. With his explanation and everything, and certainly the value of the services, I'll offer a motion that we fund the $10,000 requested.
Motion by Councilman Shakespeare, second by Councilman Thompson to fund the supplemental request of $10,000. Discussion. I just have one question for administration. If this motion passes, are we going to pull this out of the general fund or?
Yes, sir. It will be a general fund.
Okay.
I also have for you, upon your request, I can show you from every hamlet we have in the 3 parishes where we represent everybody. You see everything except their name, the social security number, and what they're there for. But we have a code here. We can break it down. We got Geisman, we got Gonzales, Sanamar, it'd be Pierpont, whatever, where that person, for those of you who want to see how well we're serving your area, you can see it from this report here. It's kind of voluminous. I didn't make copies of that for you, but it's available. And another thing we're starting for the parishes and for our state representative, this quarter we'll start sending you a quarterly report. You'll see the same report in this new magazine that we're coming up with that we'll send to each one of you by mail each quarter, so you can see how we're progressing. You can see our budget. We do have members from this area on our board of directors. One of the things that Judge Claybear wants us to do is start representing people in custody. We don't do those custody cases unless they're germane to the original case. We represent a lady and get a divorce, and she wanted to get custody. We'll handle that. But so many people come to us just for custody, we just don't have the resources to do it. But they're considered giving us an add-on fee. They've already voted one time. We have some problem with the Bar Association. We get the add-on fee, then we'll start doing some contested custody cases for this area also.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wayne. I appreciate your services that you provide and the explanation. Any further discussion?
Well,
Councilman Chase.
I'd also like to request that the state also put in for their funding, continued funding, which they had before, that if we could do that from administration, send them a request to continue their funding that was dropped, and because it is a needed service.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10, resolution for contract renewals for the 2009 calendar year. Before we get started on this, Mr. Grant, would you explain a little bit about this to us?
Yes, sir. What we're doing here in this resolution is renewing all the contracts that we will continue service at the same rate of compensation, same terms and conditions for the year of 2009. Some of them are finishing off projects. Some are just services that we need during the year, such as the Acadian Ambulance Service. But what we have done with these is all transferring formed them into professional services contracts on those same
Well,
terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. With that being said, what I'd like to do is read through each of the items, but we could, unless folks have objections or want to discuss a specific one, we could do all of these at once. But let me just read through them first, and then we can revisit them. 10A, Tourist Commission for Parish to perform administrative functions. 10B, Fire District Number 3 for Parish to perform administrative functions. C, Acadian Ambulance, ground ambulance transportation for prisoners of Ascension Parish Jail at $15,600. The Quad Area Community Action Agency, various programs for residents of the parish, $12,000. Master Vac, renewal of master contract through May 10, 2009 for pumping of sewer sludge. Allied Waste, renewal of master contract through May 10, 2009 for receiving and disposal of sewer waste. River Parish Security System, in-home incarceration program. The Comprehensive Occupational Medicine Evaluation and Testing, LLC, drug and alcohol testing of parish employees, $13,350. GSA, renewal of master contract to complete the work on the Transportation Enhancement Project. SJB, renewal of master contract to complete surveying and right-of-way work on the following parish projects: 301 W05 Westworthy Road, final phase; number 1 W03 Roddy Road improvements, bridge replacement and final phase; and Ascension Parish Jail Extension Utilities right-of-way project. Volkert and Associates to complete work on Parish Project 2007 TL RW-01 Phase 2, and Capital Area Legal Services to provide legal counseling and representation to low-income residents of the parish for $17,000. Everybody should have with them details of each of these contracts in their packet. Any discussion on any of those items?
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and make the motion to make this a consent and approve all.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilman Dempsey Lambert to approve all, and second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion?
Yes.
Councilman Thompson.
Ms. Lindsay, is it, do we have to do, could we do them all at, what, we have to do them one at a time?
In my experience, you've considered them all at once in the past.
Consent agenda.
So I know of no reason that you couldn't do that tonight.
Just want to make sure.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Agenda item number 11, budget impact analysis requests. 11A, renewal of City of Gonzales Fire District Number 1 to provide fire protection services for $120,000.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Bell.
Discussion.
Discussion, Councilman
And this
Lambert.
amount is the same as previous year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's
That's all I
appropriated in
wanted to know.
2009.
That's it.
Any further discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. 11B, renewal Fire District Number 3, the Prairieville Volunteer Fire Department to provide for the use of paid part-time firefighters, $400,000.
This is also the 2009 budget.
Motion by Councilman Thompson,
A second.
second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Discussion, Councilman Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On all the, before we get to all of them, everything is the same as last year?
Not necessarily, but it's all within the budget. It was all budgeted. It's just, it meets the budget impact analysis test, and that's why it's here.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 11C, renewal of the 23rd Judicial District pretrial drug intervention program, $42,700.
Motion.
Motion by
So moved.
Councilman Cullen, second by Councilman Shakespeare. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 11D, Carter Creative Services to develop and present 2 community educational and wellness events and programs per month during 2009 to promote services offered by Ascension Counseling Center and Ascension Parish for $50,000.
So move.
Motion by Councilman Dempsey Lambert,
Second.
second by Councilman Cullen. Any discussion?
One question.
Councilman Todd Lambert?
Yeah, Mr. Grant, is this something, this is a new program that we're coming up with?
This is a continuation from a program in '08. If you recall, in the assessment that was made of the mental health department last year, there was a call for outreach services on the West Bank, and this, we did phase 1 during '08 and began to do some pretty positive things, and this is a continuation into.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Any objection? Motion passes. 11E, renewal of Dr. Stephen Holmes to administer to the medical needs of inmates to the Ascension Parish Jail.
Motion.
$40,000.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Bell, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 11F, a cartograph software and services, $99,950.
This is budgeted, and this is for the implementation of the electronic work order system in 4 departments.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Thompson, second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. 11G, reduction of contract amount with
So
coroner.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Cullen. Ms. LeBlanc.
Councilman Lower, while we are reducing the coroner's appropriation, there is a new contract to lessen his appropriation by providing the services that he was providing direct by this amount of money. And Lindsay, you might have some comments. She prepared the agreement.
Yes, this new agreement is an employee leasing agreement. One of his employees actually works for, I believe, St. Elizabeth, and so it's an employee sharing. So I believe that's how we've been able to cut back on the cost.
Okay.
And
Great. I appreciate that. Anybody have any other questions? Okay. All right, next we have item 12, strategic planning recommendation.
Chairman Lower, can I just
Sure. Go ahead.
make one more comment? We're not cutting his budget at all. We're just taking some of the appropriation funds, 17,000, and adding it to pay for this contract separate. He used to pay for it, but he said if we would pay direct, since he has been bought out by St. Elizabeth's or merged with them, that he would be willing to reduce his appropriation by that amount of that contract. So we're not cutting his contract.
Just transferring money to
Okay.
out of his original.
Yeah, he used to pay it. Now he wants us to pay it since he is now affiliated with St. Elizabeth's.
Okay.
And
sounds
then
good.
we could reduce his appropriation that we give him every month. So we're not cutting his department. It's the same amount of money. It's just we just needed a contract, so that's what you should be approving, that contract for employee leasing.
So do we need some additional paperwork to do that, or?
the agreement is in your packet. It's a lease employee agreement.
Okay, let me get a motion then to approve it as, so that everyone understands, to approve it as.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
By Councilman Bell. Second. Second by Councilman Shakespeare. Any further discussion? Any objection? So moved. Item 12, strategic planning recommendation, the review of the DPW West Bank building sites for financial impact.
Yes, at the
Mr. Parish
strategic
President.
planning meeting last month, Councilman Schexnayder and the strategic planning committee asked that we look at the different sites on the west bank of the river. We have $750,000 in the budget to build a new public works office there, and we looked at 3 sites, and I'll let George give you all an overview and assessment.
Good afternoon, committee, Mr. Chairman, Parish President. We were asked by strategic planning, we brought some pictures of possible sites. We were asked about some cost of each individual site. We were asked a few more questions. So what I did was I put a short presentation together, just 2 pages, and it'll pop up in front of you. Let me get through with it. If you got any questions, if I don't explain it well enough, then hit me with them, and I'll do my best to answer them, okay? There's, I listed them on the bottom. Site 1 is the present site, which is Church Street at the fairgrounds. Site 2 is Lemonville Cutoff Road. That's by the jail. Site 3 is LA 1 Highway North. In relation to the present site, which is Church Street, Site 2 is 3.31 miles away from there. Site 3 is 4.15 miles away. More than one exit. What I did here was, we tried the picture I got with Mr. Fairchild. We wanted to see if there was more than one way that we could exit out of the yard, okay? Site 1 was yes, you could exit on Church Street or on Tebow Drive. Site 2 was yes, you could exit on 3120 or backside of LA Highway 18. The third site, Highway 1, that exited only onto Highway 1. There were some other branches you could take from there, but you exit on only onto Highway 1. We had them shooting grade on us on the elevation 100-year flood level. You can see that they were all a little low. Site 1 was 3.89 feet low. Site 2 was 4.3 low. Site 3 was 1.9 feet low. Water available. Water available at all 3 sites, not a problem. Sewage available. It is available at Site 1. Site 2 is also available with a new tie-in we're making for the jail. Site 3 is no, it's not available at this time. We need to put a sewage plant in. The property itself, Site 1 is a leased property right now. Keep that in mind. We can't build a building on leased property, as we all know, but it's leased right now at this time. Site 2 is owned by the parish. Site 3 is possibly being donated. It hasn't been donated yet, but it is possible that it may be donated to us. Security. Site 1 has sheriff patrols. Site 2 is located right at the jail, like I said. Site 3 also has sheriff patrols. Fire protection. All 3 sites have fire plugs. Site 2 is located at the Sunshine Fire Station itself. Traffic impact. I was asked to put this in by the director, DPW director. Traffic impacts, Site 1 is minimal. Site 2 is minimal. Site 3 is a high traffic area. That's Highway 1. When I took drainage out there to shoot some grades, I kind of had them ducking for cover. Very high traffic. On your second page, site preparation costs. I'll try to break these down one at a time and give you a brief explanation on why some of them are higher than the other one. Site 1 is $37,072. There's a $27,000 cost in there to tear down the existing building. I do not have a cost in there to bust up the slab. We could not get that. We're estimating between $8,000 and $10,000. At the fairground, let me tell you this, we have some above the ground tanks there. By city ordinance in Donaldsonville, we are not allowed to move those above the ground tanks. So once we shut down that system, we can't have them again. All right. So that's why I'm giving you these at the existing site, okay? That's also in there for some clearing, some dirt, ground dirt. I'm sorry, not clearing. We're going to do that in-house clear. Dirt. Site 2 is $15,117. That's dirt and culverts. Site 3 is $19,307. That is dirt and culverts. Raise up the elevation on all 3. Sewage treatment plant, only 1 site. Site 3 will need a sewage treatment plant. Again, every cost I give you, gentlemen, are budget amounts, okay? The best we could get with someone and determine what it would be. The cost I put in there was $6,000. The survey of property 3 is the only one that needs to be surveyed. Again, we got one that Site 1 is leased. Site 2 is already owned by us. It was around $2,500. An active donation, title review, appraisal, title insurance, etc. I met with an attorney to try to determine what the cost would be, someone who handles this type of activity all the while, so I could be reasonable amount of cost. Now, that was estimated to be around $600 to $875 for everything. The next line I put in there was the yearly lease cost. Again, that's not included in these totals that you see below. All right, it's an additional cost of $10,800. That's what we pay right now for our existing DPW building. Architectural fees are the same for each site, around $70,000. Estimated building costs, parking lot, etc., $632,500. Adding that to each of the above column, the totals for Site 1 is $739,572. Site 2 is $617,182. Site 3 is $737,182. Again, we had a little cost factor we hope was enough to cover our building, because we don't have any, we didn't go out for bids, of course. This is all budgets. Any questions, I will try to answer them. I did try to keep it as short as possible and not mess it up too bad.
Thank you, George. Councilman Todd Lambert.
One thing, Mr. George, give me the size of the properties. I didn't see that as far as acreage. Are they all suitable size-wise?
According to the director and according to our plans, I did save the layout from the first presentation, so I can also show you that in a minute. Okay, The first one is the existing property at the fairground.
And one thing on that, that is city property, right?
Well, it's South Louisiana fairground property.
But
That belongs to the city.
But it is located in the city?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, that's
Site 2 is about 2.5 acres.
2.5?
Yes. Site 3 is 5 acres.
Okay.
Half of that is field and half of it is, I don't know what you'd call it, shrubbery or overgrown. Okay.
And 2.5 is sufficient to build the building and
yes,
park it?
Yes.
Parking?
Yes, and we have that plan. I could bring it up if you want to see it, those who didn't see it, if that comes up. Also have some pictures of each site.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Councilman Joseph.
Yes. Hey, George.
Yes, sir.
Comparing the two sites, you know, the parish have estimated that we're going to grow about 200,000 people in about 2020, I think it is. And comparing those numbers on the west side of the river, we estimate that we might grow about 20,000 in that. Right now we're current at 8,000. And most of that going to be homes and everything. Currently on the west side right now, do we have satellite station that site 2, if we want to put a warehouse or anything in there, that'd be sufficient to add those sites on that?
I can't answer that, Mr. Joseph. The director's shaking his head yes back there.
So in site 3, we say the Highway 1 is a high traffic area.
Yes, sir.
What is the current, how many cars pass on it? You know, you didn't know, I mean,
No, sir,
about how.
there was more of a concern, Mr. Joseph, of the speed of the vehicles and getting the equipment out. Low boys with tractors on it, just tractors out, any bulldozers or any heavy equipment. Mr. Fairchild looked at that very closely, and so did the two DPW supervisors for that side, and everyone had a concern with it, and that's why I put it in like it was.
Councilman Shanksnyder.
After looking over all this, Parish President, do you have a recommendation as to what would be?
All sites, 3 sites would come in within your budget. Now, of course, this is conventional. I know Mr. Oliver had talked about going green with some of this. You're looking at probably, this is a 80,000 square foot building. I didn't break it down, but maybe $60 a square foot compared to $85 a square foot if you go green. So that's the difference here. So if you went with the green cost, then you would be above what your actual budget is. There's also some talk, we've been approached to buy the present site, and West Ascension Drainage is, Recreation is also looking at the possibility of buying that site. So that's still an offering. Like I said, all 3 of them would fit within the budget, the current budget that you have. Our only concern on the LA1 site would be the traffic, according to our Public Works Director and the people that actually work over there now.
So what's the recommendation that we do?
Well, as I said, as long as we stay in budget, we can certainly work with you on any site that's there. Convenient-wise, the jail is certainly convenient to the bridge. In the event of emergency, it's certainly closer. The present location has all sewer, water, everything there. If West Ascension Drainage bought it, it would certainly be an advantage, because we want to look at stocking at least a week's supply of food and other commodities in the event of another storm. That's something that we could look at on that site, because it's certainly big enough, and it's right by the Lemon Center where you could have your distribution center. So that's something that the city had really wanted us to look at in that regards. So that's an advantage to that site. The LA1 site, it's a good site as far as soil. It's a little bit higher than the other 2 sites. So, as I said, all 3 sites are within the budget. All 3 sites suitable. The only problem that we have is the safety factor on the LA1 project, on LA1 site.
Okay. After speaking with Mr. Grant and going through the hurricanes this past year, it is, whether we like it or not, around the Lemon Center is the area that people congregate and for his distribution and everything. And I know one of his Mr. Grant's big thing was to have an emergency staging area, which would kind of be in conjunction in that where we'd have our workers available. With all that, obviously the best situation, ideal situation would be to keep it in its present site, and something I'd like to do. But do you have a time frame for when something like this can be decided, or do we have to move forward now with, and all of this is a gut feeling because we have no way of knowing, but
right.
The pluses and minuses and the things that I know Mr. Grant is pursuing from emergency standpoint, does it warrant us to wait until some of these issues are settled, or do you think that we need to move forward now to try? I know we all want to settle this and try to build a building and get it as quickly as possible because our workers deserve it.
Well, basically, you went through 1 year with it being in the budget,
yes.
And our second year of it being in the budget. If we're gonna start, we need to get started. I would hope that we could at least have something settled here by May. I would just say that. If not tonight, next week, this month meeting, maybe by the following meeting. I'd like to have it for the May meeting in Donaldsonville settled.
I mean, the only group that can really take a look at it from a standpoint of DPW and administration and hidden costs and usefulness and everything else is administration. I mean, I have certain information, Councilman Joseph does, the rest of the council does, and but we don't have everything there is or looking from it from an administrative standpoint. I would just like to see how long it would take to get a recommendation for the most practical site that we could use that would have the most positives. And if you want to rank them 1, 2, and 3, that would be fine. Then we could vote on it. I mean, it's going to be used by administration. I'm not going to be driving a tractor, and I'm not going to be doing anything. So I would like to see something as to what would y'all prefer.
If you're asking me personally?
Well, I mean, administration, whoever.
Okay, I mean, Cedric may have some different ideas. We talked about it, but we hadn't really. I mean, if we can salvage the existing facility in the city and tear down that, it's a terrible building. Our workers shouldn't have to be there. If we could do that and put a new building there in the city, if West Ascension Recreation would actually purchase that property and we could purchase a piece of it from them, to me, I think that would be good. It would not only help us, it would strategically located. It would serve the purposes during a hurricane, but it also would get a blighted building out of the city. So in that regard, that's the way I would look at it. Now, the jail site is 2.5 acres. It's low. We're going to have to put some dirt in there. Of course, we do have a lot of dirt. There's also some trees that has to be removed from that site. So, all the sites have pluses. All the sites have minuses. From a strategic point of getting equipment here and manpower here and working, the jail is a good site. That site. LA1, I know Mr. Joseph's been working very, very hard with the T-Bows and the Lemons, and I personally want to thank those two families and Mr. Hartman. And I know he's worked hard to acquire that site. So, and that site, again, is a site that can also be utilized, but there's heavy traffic there. So, again, if you want my opinion, my personal opinion, I like the present site if West Ascension Recreation.
With that
That's not settled.
With that information, I would like to offer the motion that we give administration 30 days to look into it further and try to get a more realistic finding as to what is going to happen with the current properties, at which time they might be able to give us a little more of a realistic timeline as to what could be done there, or if anything can be done there. And then we can make a decision that would include that.
A motion by Councilman Sheikh Snyder to give administration 30 days. Second by Councilman Cullen. Discussion, Councilman Lambert.
Yeah, that's one thing we need to look at, being we're gonna buy this property on this Site 1, is I think we're gonna be over the budget. We're looking at, what, 733 right now. I know we're leasing it for 10, so you're looking at already close to 750 already, and we haven't bought the property. We haven't torn the old building down. So with Site 1, we're going to be over the budget of $750,000 from what I see it. There's no way going around it.
That's including all that.
Mr. Lambert, I think you're probably right. It probably would be
the buying of the property wasn't in there.
Right.
Of Site 1, which could be, who knows what, cost of property right now.
Gentlemen, there's still you're right. The budget is very, very tight on what we put together here. Again, this is budget numbers only. But even in that aspect, it made us very, very tight to work within the $750,000. Again, the director needs to speak on this. As the parish president said, I think our conditions are deplorable in our existing building.
No doubt.
And I think my personal opinion is that we've gone long enough without making a decision on this. I think we can take these numbers and we need to make a choice. I've got a bad concern about delaying it any further. I don't know how long it'll take. Parish president may be able to answer how long it'll take to solve all these other problems. I don't know. I don't have any idea.
And I agree with you. We knew it needed to be replaced 2 years ago, and we put the money in the budget. It's, like I said, it's been in the budget going on 2 years now. We hadn't touched it yet, so the money's there. We just need to come to a decision and move forward with it. So have us a facility.
One of the things, I don't want to see those men go through another winter in that building. And
I agree.
I think we have some female employees that have a really hard time going to the restroom there. So whatever the decision is, like I said, I wouldn't want to delay it much longer. And I mean, if we do it now, I mean, by the time you get the building, you probably still wouldn't make it till
to the late fall.
Or early winter. So,
Councilman Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Thank you. With the way the parish is growing and as fast as the parish is growing, we're looking at Site 3 with 5 acres. And probably if we go to the owners, you may have a chance of getting additional property. I think, you got high traffic in that area, but we could fix it where we can have another exit on the other side of that property.
You're asking me? I don't see how where it is existing where it is right now. I don't see how. It's a long way. The next road to the north would be, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Joseph, you would know, that would be the road that we use for the water tower. Would that be correct?
943 or 405. There'd be two.
You'd have to cross the highway to get to one. The other one would be on the other side of that short road. It's just, you're still exiting. You're still going to, unless you go all the way back to the river road, you're still going to come back on the Highway 1.
Okay, but we still have another way out.
If you had the rest of the property, you'd have to build another road.
But the way the parish is growing and as fast as this parish is growing, I hate to see us get locked in with like 2.5 acres and we stuck and we can't grow. If you look at the decisions we have made in the past on this east side, like this site right here, if we wanted to expand, we can't expand. We need to look at an area that we can expand. Site 3 looks like the area that we can expand.
I just put the numbers together, Mr. Thompson, that's what's going to be. If the administration, if the president or Cedric.
Councilman Joseph?
Yeah. I do understand when they want Site 1. Currently, we have that building in there. And my question is, we gonna build heavy equipment around a recreation park where we have already facility. Now, we have hazard material, we have lubricant, we have equipment going around. Currently, right now, we don't have enough acreage to put supplies on this side of the river. And I hate to say that. You have one site of a DPW that when you go in the backyard, you have everything back there. You got tractors, you have sand, you have gravel, you have wood supplies for bridges. That's how big that site is. Now, we got kids gonna be running around here on Site 1, and we're gonna be expanding, and we're gonna need places to store stuff. I had a problem with that. And you know, I have concerns with that, and I just wanna outlay something on Site 3. You know, yes, this is a site is on the West Bank side of it. You know, and this site here is the center of the West Bank. It's 7 miles from the tip of Modeth to Lemonville, 7 miles. On the presentation, it said this site is 4 miles away from Donaldsonville. Actually, it's only 2 miles away from Donaldsonville.
No, sir. That's not what I have on there. I have it as 4.15 miles from the existing site, the existing DPW building.
And I'm going with the center of Donaldsonville. That's all. The center of the what you call. 5 acres will, you know, it will be donated. I mean, once again, it's not that often on the West Bank you get donated property. It just don't happen. It just don't happen, and it's 5 acres. Great opportunity, you know. You know, also on emergency route. You know, this route here does access you to multi-sides of the railroad track, is a levee, and is also, if a railroad track, they have 3 tunnels, 3 underpass, and they normally flood during hurricanes. So, you know, once again, this would give you an alternative route to go through 943 to reach the back of town area, the 308 area, and Highway 1 South area. You know, the other thing is, this 5 acres can be used for the future. I only think about the people on the other side for the future. And the biggest thing is, currently we are growing, like everyone said, but mosquito control is over here. Everything is over here. This can also make this as a satellite station for mosquito control. On this side, we have recycling center. This is a central area that we can put a recycling center for that side of the area. You know, there's license and building permit offices. You know, there's a satellite we can put over there. Also, you know, animal shelter. They have enough room with 5 acres to make this thing as doable. It look just like this side. You know, currently, yes, we're talking about hurricanes, a warehouse for hurricane prepositioned stuff on the west side. You know, 5 acres, you can put all that in Central 1 location, right there on that property, right there. You know, I mean, this is a site that you know, I'm real passionate about it. I mean, I have to say it, you know. But for me to say that to go right back into the area it is, and as fast as Donaldsonville is, you know, may grow, and it's a recreation center. I have no problem if purchases land for recreation, but for me to say that put a DPW in this area with the kids and the activities that they're gonna go, you know, it's just not a safe environment for the future of that facility right there. That's my opinion on that. You know, I took a little survey of the community. You know, I asked the same question the same information I just gave to you, I have over 350 signatures with like Highway 1, right here, the north portion of it. I understand the concern of the administration, but, I just don't see this building going on 2 acres of land by the jailhouse when we acquisition that land specific for the jailhouse. It was emergency acquisition of it, and it was for the jailhouse. I mean, we talking about hurricane and any hurricane. The last time transportation took a survey on the last large hurricane, they only had 9,000 cars pass in the 48 hours before the hurricane. Now, if all the Thibodeau, Homer, and everything that passed through Hurricane Katrina, yes, they had a whole lot of traffic there. But there's no more traffic on Highway 1 than when we're putting our equipment on Highway 61, when we're cutting grass or transferring the tractor from one point to another. I think the people on the west side deserve this building and making sure that they get a nice building, a green building, and in an area where everyone knows it's the center of the West Bank. And I would hope and encourage that people consider this site for the future of the West Bank. We do not want to be cornered or looking 20 years, or 10 years, 5 years from now and saying we should have done something different. So that's the way I feel on that Site 3.
Councilman Bell.
Mr. George, are we positive we're going to get this land? I mean, we've been talking about it, but I mean, is there anything concrete that it's going to be donated?
Last week, one of the donors is also involved with the project with the fairgrounds that the parish president is talking about. He told me that there were some holdups at this time. I don't know how long before that'll be cleared up or not, but there is some holdup before the donation will actually take place. Now, I can't answer that, Mr. Bell, if it's
yes, sir.
a month or 6 months. I don't have any idea. The only thing I did was try to figure all the costs.
Councilman Shakespeare.
Do we have anything in writing of the agreement for Site 3?
No, sir, but I did visit with them, and if I think the concerns are met and taken care of, that I don't think they would back out of the agreement.
So you satisfied that we're going to get the...
Well, if I don't know what else is left to do there,
okay.
But we can talk to the landowner and reassure you or whatever the next meeting if that's what you'd like.
Well, I mean, you got time for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second to give administration 30 more days. Councilman Shakespeare, can I propose we amend it to come back to the next Finance Committee meeting since that's around 30 days?
Well, I mean, I'd like to see the details worked out, but and administration give a recommendation, and then we can follow it. We've got enough information, and so...
I'm just saying we could do that at the next Finance Committee
Yeah,
meeting.
that's fine.
That's fine. Okay. That's a second, Councilman Bell.
Mr. George, I mean, I'm all for more land. I mean, you would have to say that's logical. But in the back of my mind, I'm also worried about liabilities. I mean, our DPW head has also been over there surveying traffic. It's going to be tough getting equipment in and out, and that's in the back of my mind. I'm certainly not against the land site, the acreage involved, but I don't think the traffic gonna get any better, and I'm concerned about it. So
if I, again, I'm here to make a presentation. I'm here to give you the 1, 2, 3s of all 3 sites. I was trained in safety and accident investigation. I did that job, both that and security, for quite a number of years. I visited the site, I looked at it from those aspects, and I have a bad concern that something's going to happen on this Highway 1 without another road or another access back. I'm very, very worried about it. And I know Mr. Fairchild is also.
Mr. Fairchild, would you like to address that?
Yeah, my main concern is with the day-to-day operation, getting things done fast, getting it done the right way and the safe way. From what I see, the traffic-wise, we can get in and out of Lemonville down Downsonville, cross over versus going with the traffic. That was my main concern, and 2.5 acres I feel will be sufficient for any future expansion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to delay to the next Finance Committee meeting or come back with a recommendation, administration have a recommendation, and we'll decide then. Any further discussion? Any objection?
One thing, Chairman.
Yes,
I'd like to see just 2 ops on this instead of 3, so.
Yeah.
Let's.
I think one's, like, I'm kind of like Dempsey, one's going to be out of the budget.
Yeah, let's try to get that narrowed down, please. Thank you.
Well, we're going to be coming back with prices.
Any further discussion? Any objection? Motion passes.
I ain't no contract.
Thank you. All right, agenda item number 13, a resolution to authorize bond refunds. Gentlemen, what this is a result of many discussions between myself, administration, bond counsel. What we're trying to do here is basically capitalize on the bond market and the situation and interest rates and situation this is in, that it's in. It's much like a lot of people remortgaging their home loans right now and taking advantage. So we wanted to get something in place to where we could capitalize on some savings if they were to materialize. So what this does is basically authorize the bond team, and they're here available for questions. We came up with a figure based on the market and what we thought we could realistically do at $350,000 in net savings to the parish on our bonds. So basically, in my mind, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but we need something in place to where we can really move quickly and not have to run it through, wait a month to get it approved. So this does not allow any kind of action to take place until that they can actually make sure we save $350,000 in bond indebtedness. Okay. And I'll ask before I go on if that didn't explain it well enough, if anybody has any questions for the bond counsel.
See what time.
Councilman Lambert?
I got one that Mr. Jim might can answer that. I guess the $350,000, is that including fees of the bonding attorneys?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I want to make. That's including the fees.
Absolutely.
So we would
After
clear
all
it
the
through.
fees are paid, that would have to be the
Okay,
savings.
that was my only question.
Yep.
Well, I got the floor. I guess one question is, this is just to give you the opportunity to look at it to make sure that it fits and can be done with that savings. If not, you're going to come back to us.
Councilman Lambert, what's happened is we've been watching this refunding for probably a year now. I think about a year ago we talked to you in your office about it, and it's been up and down as the market changes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The problem is it takes about 3 months to come to the Finance Committee, the Council, the Bond Commission, back to y'all, and in 3 months the bond market can move up 50 basis points or down 50 basis points. And so, we may kind of say, oh, it's worth next week it doesn't work. So what we're trying to do is really just get all the paperwork in place so that such time as it works, we come back to y'all and say, it works today, let's go.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Councilman Bell, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Last bit I wanted to mention, because of if we pass this here tonight, we will also be adding to, I spoke with Chairman Bell earlier, this to the council agenda as a special item so that we can go ahead and move on this, which is the whole point. Councilman Schechtner.
This is not going to increase our debt service on that payback.
Schechtner will have to decrease your debt service.
Okay.
Every year.
All right. That's what I'll.
Chairman Lord, just so you have an idea of where we are, and presently the coupon rate on these bonds is about 4.3%. The current rate is like 2.7. In order to make this deal work, we need to get to like 2.2. So that's why we're continuing to watch it. So right now it wouldn't work, but hopefully in a week or so, or maybe a month or so, it will work. But when it's right, as Jim said, we need to be able to go and not have to come back to y'all and go through the process of waiting a month or two to get it passed.
And in the last year, it has worked and not worked. And that's the problem. You got a 3-month lead time, and in 3 months, the bond market changes.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time we've done this. In the past several years that I've been on board, we have done this, several times. Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. The last item, gentlemen, is our Parish Council financial approval process. as I think we've talked about this in the past many times, and I'm going to just turn it over to Mr. Grant, and then I'll make some more comments. Mr. Grant?
Gentlemen, I'm passing out to you each a packet of information related to this proposal.
Thank you.
What this attempts to do is clear up inconsistencies in your financial approval process that have wreaked havoc on the administration over the last few months. And basically, I'm going to walk you through the 8 steps that we are proposing here and try and tell you where that cleans up something that's been going on. Okay, the first is basically what I'm asking you to do is change the resolution authorizing the parish president to execute professional services and engineering contracts to $50,000 within the budget. And I'm asking you for that because there's very few transactions we do today that are at $10,000. The day-to-day operations of this government it's a $100 million enterprise. Okay, it just doesn't get it at 10,000 anymore. It's just very burdensome to the cost of this process of doing business every day. The second thing we're proposing here is to phase out master contracts with task order provisions for up to $7,500 with council approval. This process will be replaced by the professional services contract process that you approved back in October. Some of the things you approved tonight were the end of task orders, cleaning up all of that business, so we could come to you with professional services contracts for specific scopes of work, and for specific prices. The third is to maintain the resolution that authorizes the parish president to renew contracts with the same terms and conditions originally approved by the council that are in the budget. All of these contracts will be changed to standard professional services contracts with 1-year terms and 1-year renewal options. All executed contracts will be reported to this finance committee monthly. So to create the transparency you need to see that those things are done. The budget impact analysis process that we just went through this evening, we are suggesting that we change that and propose budget ordinances to you for each expenditure, which will be a very transparent and open process. The ordinance will be brought to the Finance Committee for disposition. If it passed through Finance Committee, it would then go on to the full council for approval. Number 5, the qualification-based selection process, which you passed in October, would govern the award of all professional services contracts that result in a fee of more than $50,000. That currently is in place. You've approved now 3 of those, and I think the process has begun to work quite well. All change order requests will be brought to the Finance Committee for consideration, as is currently done. Public bids will be brought to the Finance Committee for consideration and disposition. And the administration will present a monthly revenue and expenditure report to the Finance Committee as you received tonight. And the report will include a listing of monthly expenditures of $100,000 or greater. The packet includes a copy of the proposed resolution for the $50,000 expenditure and a proposed draft of the budget ordinance that we would propose to bring to you. We think this makes it much more clear and direct in what we're doing. It offers the opportunity for any exchange at any level in the finance process. It brings us into the current day in relation to the way we're doing our work. If you notice tonight on the revenue and expenditure report, the report reporting $100,000 expenditures was provided, and it's at least a half a dozen or so a month at that level.
And what we realized in going through with the budget impact analysis policy that we had adopted with the 25,000, and there was actually a number of policies and practices and procedures that were actually in conflict with each other. And this is a way, of course, it's a fine line always between controls and operating efficiencies. We've done a number of things over the last year with the professional services contract, the engineering services, the professional services process and the selection process, the engineering selection process at the $50,000 mark and above. The financial reporting has, is dramatically different than it was a year ago. We're now down to line item by line item, percentage of budget with highlights and explanations for every single one every month. So I think we do have a lot of controls in place that were not there a year ago. And I think these recommendations still give us the oversight that this committee, and still allow administration to not be have their hands tied to the point where we're actually impeding services to the people, which is, I think, unfortunately, a byproduct of some of the things we had done in the past. I think there are many parishes who don't have any kind of spending controls, certainly not of the nature that we have. But this, I think, is a result of a lot of discussions with administration and with many of you. That's something that could possibly work and still give us the oversight we need. I'll open the floor for discussion.
One question.
Councilman Lambert.
Yeah, Mr. Grant, can you give me a scenario like on number one right there, 50,000? What engineering service or professional service we needed that was over the 10,000 mark that needed to be moved on prior to coming back to the council?
Because what I'm saying to you is that if indeed we did an RFP, as it's called for in the qualification-based selection, and we went through that process, and you indeed then came as a council and accepted someone to enter that contract, we would not bring that back to the council. We'd enter into the contract. It was in the budget. It had gone through the selection process.
But we do approve a lot of contract, prior, we have a bunch of them on the books now, is what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
It wouldn't have to come back to us on each item.
No, but it would then again, it also would be reported to you monthly. In
Right, I see that, yeah.
Yes.
Anything over 100,000 on
No,
the
sir.
bottom.
Any contract
Yeah.
signed would be reported to you monthly.
Okay.
And so, I mean, the other thing to remember too is, of course, anything that's not budgeted still comes to us, and it would be through the, we're going to amend the budget on an ongoing basis now, and have the justification that's on the budget impact analysis process on that attached with the ordinance revision. And also the $100,000 and above, that's even for things that are budgeted. I personally, and I think many others would want to know big chunks of money that are being spent, regardless of if it's in the budget or not. That's a new addition to the monthly report, as you saw as well. Councilman Lambert?
Yeah, it would come back to the council, but it would already be approved through administration, correct?
If it was within the budget.
Right, and within the 50,000, under
Yes, sir.
50. Okay.
Okay. Any further?
That's all I got.
Any further discussion?
It's just a,
Councilman Joseph?
yeah, it's just a proposal right now. We're reviewing it
Well,
before we go on.
It's a proposal. What I have in here is a resolution, and I have the proposed ordinance that we would use. So this is our proposal to you, yes.
So I have time to review this here before we go. Right. Okay.
Okay.
I move the proposed ordinance go forward
Okay.
to the next council meeting.
Motion by Councilman Shanksnyder.
Second.
Second by Councilman Cullen. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes.
Motion adjourned, Mr.
Motion
Chairman.
adjourned by Councilman Lambert. Give me a second. Second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Meeting's adjourned.